Griezmann to Inter, Chelsea's Kante Dilemma, Newcastle are close to a takeover, a transfer roundup, and this week's great debate all coming up in the next few minutes as I'm your host Matt Froelich, you are the one footballers, and this is the Daily News. First off, and the latest between Barcelona and Inter Milan and their never-ending transfer saga of like every single player. I have no idea who's going to be playing for who come the start of next season, but apparently the latest news is saying that involving Lautaro Martinez's swap from Inter to Barca will be Antoine Griezmann going in the opposite direction. Now, the reason for this is that we've spoken before about the fact that the global pandemic may have an effect on the money available for transfers this summer, so why not directly swap players that apparently have a similar value, certainly a similar release clause. Antoine Griezmann's is around 120 million euros, while Lautaro Martinez is 111. Now, Inter Milan really don't see too much of a difference between the two, but I'm not so sure Barcelona feel the same way. I mean, sure, they're not going to get 120 million for Griezmann, but I'm also not sure they're going to want to pay so much money for Lautaro Martinez. On the face of it, it seems like this is a pretty regular deal and it would go through and benefit both sides, but things in football aren't always so simple. As for their stats this season, actually on the face of it, they've been pretty similar. Lautaro Martinez has 16 this season, where Griezmann has 14 and has played 6 more games. That's not too different. That's not too different. Sorry, Ryan, there's going to be a lot of cuts today. That's not too different, but picture how they're showing to the media where Griezmann's a massive flop and Lautaro Martinez is like the next best thing. Okay, Martinez is 7 years younger and has loads more years to become an unbelievable player, but still, that's pretty harsh on Antoine Griezmann. Anyway, whether or not the swap deal were done, yeah, we're going to have to wait and see, but I've got a feeling there may be other players or a bit of money involved as well. But moving on and to the dilemma that Chelsea face over N'Golo Kante. Now, there's no denying it. On his day, N'Golo Kante is one of the best midfielders in the world and the best defensive midfielder in the world. Having said that, he's had a load of hamstring and groin injuries this season, and that's meant he's only started 16 Premier League games, as well as only 3 in Chelsea's ill-fated Champions League campaign. So, what do they do with him at the end of the season? Do they say, it's just a bad campaign full of injuries, I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine? Or do they say, you know what, he's going to be 30 next year, he's going to be heading in some injuries, and we all know that Chelsea aren't so great at offering long-term deals to players over 30. Maybe they sell him for a big bit of money like they can at the moment. Apparently they have put a £70 million price tag on the World Cup winner's head, and I'm not actually sure if that would be a good deal or not. Like, don't get me wrong, I know, as you mentioned, there have been injuries, but replacing Kante is so difficult. They've got other players who play in central midfield. There's obviously the difference between him and Jorginho is quite stark, and they've also got Mateo Kovacic, but neither of them are N'Golo Kante. And if you're going to sign another unbelievable defensive midfielder, one of the best in the world, are you going to find one for 70 million? Is there another one even out there that's available to sign? I mean, Chelsea aren't going to be buying Casemiro or Fabinho anytime soon. Not so sure this is the smartest move, but again, it is just paper talk at the moment and there is no real effort from Chelsea to sell the Frenchman. So next up, and to the news that Newcastle fans have been waiting to hear pretty much ever since Mike Ashley took over the club almost 14 years ago. That is that he is selling and that Newcastle United has been taken over. Nothing is set in stone just yet, but we're kind of waiting for the formal announcement within the next few weeks or so. Apparently, a £310 million deal is going to see the Tyneside club taken over, but there is a lot of complication to this deal. Basically, it's a consortium that's taken over, fronted by one person in England, backed by 2 wealthier brothers, and then further backed by the Sovereign Wealth Fund in Saudi Arabia. So with Saudi Arabia's public investment fund apparently being able to own up to 80% of the club and one of their directors being chairman of Newcastle, this could see a hell of a lot of money pumped into the club. We're talking like Manchester City levels of money here. It's a proper football manager takeover. But what would this mean for Newcastle players? Well, the club is in a bit of a dilemma. They wouldn't need to sell players. Like, for instance, Sean Longstaff has been linked to the move to Manchester United for around 50 million for the last year or so. Before that, 50 million is a big deal to Newcastle, but after the takeover, it's not so much of a big deal. Having said that, they've then got the money to sign someone new, so maybe they can just get rid of Sean Longstaff and bring in, I don't know, some big expensive signing instead. This will obviously be a lot of turmoil for the players, both on and off the pitch, and maybe for Steve Bruce as well, who's brought in under the former ownership, and if the new guys don't think he's doing a good enough job, he will be out of the door. So Newcastle fans, let us know what you think of that. It's a good thing that Mike Ashley's leaving, I'm presuming. In fact, I definitely know it is, but is it going to be a good thing with the new ownership coming in and maybe just throwing lots of money into the club, and who knows how long they'll stick around for. So next up, and to a quick roundup of the rest of the news you might have missed. And Lorenzo Insigne is close to signing a new deal at Napoli until 2025. If Barcelona fail to land Lautaro Martinez, they'll move for Real Sociedad's Alexander Isak instead. Sergio Aguero's former club Independiente in Argentina are looking to bring the Manchester City forward back to the club at some stage within the next year or so. And lastly but not least, some really positive news that Daniele Rugani and Paulo Dybala, who both tested positive for COVID-19, have now tested negative, meaning they have recovered from the virus. So finally, we come to this week's great debate, and this week it's me posing you guys a question for the comment section. I want to know, which player would you bring back to your club at the moment? Which former player would you pull back into the ranks to help your side? For me, as a Spurs fan, I'd bring back Luka Modric. Not present day Luka Modric, I'm talking about the one that won 4 Champions Leagues with Real Madrid. And the one that was at Tottenham a few years before that, because he was still pretty good. I'd love to see him boss in the midfield, and Spurs definitely need a world-class player in the middle of the park. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts on the great debate and the rest of all of today's daily news. Whilst you're at it, you can also smash the like button and click here or here to check out all of the other videos we've got going on OneFootball. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.